Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for some more Star Wars Battlefront II news. Today we have a few very important topics to cover, including some excellent news for those of you frustrated by DICE completely butchering the lightsaber combat in the latest update, and then some other updates on capital supremacy changes and more. As always, if you guys have been enjoying the frequent uploads and could leave this video a like, I would greatly appreciate it, as it really does help out the channel. Anyways, let's just jump straight into the news, starting out with a couple of updates on the state of the game this weekend. First off, there is a weekend event taking place right now within Battlefront 2, that being a new Battle Point event covering both reinforcements and vehicles, and all units in those two categories will be 75% off throughout the weekend. This should give those of you who still have vehicles to rank up a chance to grab them pretty much non-stop, and heroes are going to have a more difficult time this weekend because there are going to be way less troopers to kill and way more vehicles and reinforcements on a lot of the maps. You guys are probably wondering where the full community calendar for September is that would give us the full month schedule, seeing as we are an entire week into the month, but Ben said over on the Battlefront forums that the team is waiting on one final green light before it's released. DICE really needs to start doing a better job of planning out the release schedule for the monthly community calendars. They have arrived late pretty much every single month, and there have been multiple times we haven't had the community calendar until nearly 2 weeks into the month, which pretty much negates the purpose of having one in the first place. Anyways, let's just move into what is undoubtedly the biggest piece of news we have today, and in a rather surprising announcement yesterday afternoon, DICE is going to be putting out a temporary fix for the lightsaber combat. As we discussed in a video earlier this week, the update that went live last Wednesday completely destroyed nearly every aspect of lightsaber combat in Battlefront 2. I mean, blocking would rarely work consistently, dodging was made almost completely useless as more often than not you get hit regardless of how well it was timed, and overall DICE's latest patch just screwed up far more than it fixed. So our community manager announced that on Monday, barring any unexpected delays, an emergency update will be going live to undo everything they ruined with the main August update. From what I can tell, this patch is just going to revert the changes from the most recent update, so while lightsaber combat is not going to be perfect after this, it will at least be how it was prior to the August patch, which wasn't flawless admittedly, but was far better than what we're dealing with now. This is great news because honestly, heroes versus villains and any hero mode is pretty much unplayable, and starting Monday the game should be in much better shape. I was actually going to have a video go up yesterday discussing how DICE should address this issue, and I specifically said that just putting out a hotfix to undo the August changes would be a far better solution than just doing nothing, but then this news dropped and just kinda made that video pointless. So overall, this is excellent news. I was not expecting DICE to address the lightsaber combat until the September update in a little over 2 weeks, and while this shouldn't have been an issue in the first place, it was far more than I expected for them to actually address it in a somewhat timely manner, so I'm mildly impressed. I really and truly hope by the time the September update rolls around on the 25th that DICE have got their stuff figured out and a real and permanent solution to the lightsaber combat is implemented. We are getting Felucia in 2 offline modes at the end of this month, and that is the time when players come flooding back to this game. Obviously, Battlefront 2 has a very diehard community who have and will stick with this game at all times, but if DICE wants the casual Star Wars fans and players who come in and out of this game to stick around this time, they need to make absolutely sure that lightsaber combat is in a really good place by September 25th. Let's be honest, the other bugs in this game pale in comparison to the way DICE has continually made lightsaber combat worse. Most players can deal with an ATST blowing them up in one shot occasionally, or falling through the map once a week, or any of the other 1,000 bugs this game has, but when something like lightsaber combat is broken in a Star Wars game, and newsflash to DICE, lightsaber combat is kind of important in a game about Star Wars, people start to get fed up and leave. I hope DICE has every spare developer they have who isn't working on the new content, just putting time into bug fixes for this new update, because while new content is awesome and I'm really looking forward to it, a functioning game is pretty important too. It's a weird place I'm in right now because while overall I'm super happy with and looking forward to the future of Battlefront 2, as every one of the next 4 months is filled with exciting content to look forward to, but on the other hand the bugs are at an all-time high, so it is just an odd place to be a Battlefront fan. Alright, let's move on and discuss a pretty huge development in the Battlefront community that has a lot of people very concerned, as David Rudder, who is the man responsible for the microtransactions in FIFA, has just been appointed head of EA Studios Europe, and from here on out will be the one leading the development team at DICE, and just to spell that out for you, this man will now be leading the team that supports Battlefront 2. If you are not familiar with Ultimate Team in the EA FIFA franchise, it is both one of the most successful and predatory microtransaction systems in gaming history. Ultimate Team has brought in Electronic Arts billions in the past decade. I believe it was introduced in 2009, so exactly 10 years ago, and the man now in charge of the Battlefront 2 development team is the same guy who created the system to begin with. Now there is a chance this might not mean anything at all for Battlefront 2. A few years back, EA did explicitly say they intended to introduce a system similar to Ultimate Team into the Battlefront franchise, but fortunately for us, that is already behind us. They tried it at launch and we all know exactly how that ended, and it wasn't pretty, and they won't be trying something as scummy as that in Battlefront anytime soon. They are well aware of the uproar that would instantly cause if they did. Ben did put out a couple of statements on the situation over on Reddit, first clarifying that they have already been working with this guy for a while already, so it's likely this all happened a few months ago and the news just broke now. He also stated that no, loot boxes specifically are not going to return. Like I said, that much should have been obvious from the beginning, because if and when DICE start trying to work in more heavy-handed microtransactions in Battlefront 2, they are going to need to be very careful. As of right now, despite crystals being available in-game, there is literally no reason to purchase them. DICE just doesn't release enough skins to warrant purchasing crystals, and there is such a delay between new skins that you have ample time to earn as many credits as you want. Even if you are a very casual player, if there is a few skins that you really want to get, you can easily earn enough credits even for the most expensive skins in just a few weeks. On top of that, the players who are far more likely to buy the crystals in the first place are the players who are already very invested in the game like myself, and those are the players that will already have a ton of credits and most of the skins purchased. I currently have something like 500,000 credits and every skin I want already purchased, and I know a lot of people who have way more than that, even into multiple millions of credits. I think the most likely scenario is that DICE begins rolling out crystal exclusive skins, and obviously some people are not going to like that too much, but in my personal opinion, if cosmetic only microtransactions means this game gets support through 2020, I will happily support the game. Anyone with any idea of how the real world works knows that DICE can't continue to support Battlefront 2 if the game isn't making some sort of profit, and because the game is regularly on sale for under $10 and the crystals are nearly pointless in their current state, their revenue stream has to be barely a trickle. I think EA probably knows they have a diehard Star Wars fanbase for this game that would eat up any microtransactions they release if they are cosmetic, and those are something I don't have a problem with personally, especially if it means we start to get more hero skins. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure they have something up their sleeve. Keep an eye on the channel for updates on the situation, as I'm sure we'll know what DICE has planned soon enough. Let's move on and cover a few other bits of news. First off, yesterday a small additional change was made to Capital Supremacy, and the respawn timer was reduced from 10 seconds down to 7. This is an excellent change in my opinion. I've always felt the high respawn time is very unnecessary in Capital Supremacy, especially on the ground phase, so hopefully this helps the overall pacing of that game mode feel a little quicker and just allow you to get back into the action a lot faster. I also really hope they work on the newly redesigned ship phase with the new objective. The way they set that up is baffling. It's clear they did not think through the new objective you have to destroy in any way, because depending on the map it can be either nearly impossible to even get close to, or ridiculously easy to destroy, and if you have a team that's not too bright, your game will just never end. Obviously the better team deserves to win, but one team has a very clear advantage on each of the 4 Capital Supremacy maps. Ben also chimed in on the offline game mode instant action that's dropping this month, as over on the forums players were wondering if we could ever expect to be able to access the ship phase during that offline game mode. Ben did confirm that no, instant action is going to be ground phase only. I think that was to be expected. I have a feeling instant action is going to be pretty bare bones just from what we've seen. I'm sure it will be fun and a nice option to kick back and not have to be 100% on the ball at all times like you do online, which is really all I was hoping for. Our community manager also left a rare comment on their playtesting process, as the lack of playtesting that is very obvious after updates don't work as intended is a very common criticism aimed at DICE. Ben said the team would really like to implement a community test environment that would let players themselves opt in to test out new updates before they go live for the whole community, so DICE could get feedback directly from us instead of whatever they are doing at DICE, which clearly is not working very well. I personally think this would be absolutely perfect for Battlefront 2. One of the game's biggest issues is the frequency of updates that cause a ton of extra glitches that DICE then has to try later to fix, and it just ends up being an endless cycle where one annoying bug may be fixed, and then 2 additional ones pop up in its place. Whatever DICE decides to do, some change needs to be made to address their playtesting process, and this may be the perfect solution. Finally, and this is just something that is pretty hilarious, Battlefront 2 is now in the Guinness Book of World Records, not for anything that happened recently, but for being the cause of the most downvoted comment in Reddit history, which of course was the infamous pride and accomplishment comment that has went down in meme legends. It's not really news, but it's something I wanted to bring up because it shows just how far we've come, and honestly, it's still pretty hysterical to this day. Well guys, that is going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave this video a like, and if you are new around here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Look out for a new episode of How to Not Suck that should be dropping on Sunday, and this is one a lot of you guys have always been requesting. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.